Chapter 14. Josh didn't know what he was looking at when he entered the cavern. There were green and purple crystals everywhere, reminding him of some crazy garden. But the most remarkable thing was the green light set between a stalactite and stalagmite. He could swear he saw a woman's silhouette in that light.
"That's Rapatha,"
Anila told him. She stared at his face, a sad expression on hers. Josh knew she was uncomfortable with the idea of him taking over her husband's body. "How are you doing?" Josh asked Reese. "I'm fine. Don't worry about me." "Reese says he's fine," Josh told Anila, and was relieved to see her relax a little. Dargo made his way through the crystal garden. Josh shivered at the sight. Dargo moved like a zombie from a horror movie. "Rapatha, is that truly you?"
"Yes, Dargo."
The pleasant feminine voice echoed throughout the cavern. "Remarkable." Dargo turned to Victor and the Hexel. "May I ask to be lifted up to her?" "You may," Victor replied in a gruff voice. He clearly didn't like the idea of helping the man who killed Champagne, the man who tried to destroy the rest of the world.
"Victor, please,"
Anila said quietly. Victor looked down at her from atop the Hexel's neck. Finally, he steered the giant weed with the flowery face toward Dargo, where the zombie climbed aboard. The Hexel lifted up to the shining light of Rapatha. "You really didn't want to be a nature demon, did you?" Dargo asked with a laugh. "You went to great lengths to hide yourself."
"I didn't know I would be turned into an island. I didn't know I would be turned into anything. I just thought I would be hidden from my family, and from Rockney."
"Well, mission accomplished." Dargo laughed again. Josh watched the scene from below. As much as he hated Dargo, watching the conversation made him feel better than he had in a while. At least someone was happy. "We must heal you," Dargo told Rapatha. "Is there any way to do so?"
"Not that I'm aware of,"
she replied. Josh suddenly remembered where he'd heard of Rapatha before. The conversation with the dead nature demons slowly came back to him. One of them had mentioned a daughter named Rapatha, hadn't it? With that memory came another, but he couldn't quite remember exactly what he'd been told. He put it out of his mind for now.
"Wait,"
Rapatha said suddenly.
"I gave some of my essence to the one who did this to me. His name is Wes, and he's a Gelfin."
That caught Josh's attention. He listened intently.
"In exchange for his help, I gave him my life force, and he kept it in a jar. Maybe that will help."
"Where is this Wes fellow?" Dargo asked.
"In a town called Lacey. It was the last safe haven for creatures that wanted no part in the war. It was so long ago, though. I don't know if it even exists anymore."
"It's worth a shot, I think. Do you remember how to get there?"
"Not from here, no."
Rapatha said nothing for a moment. Then she said,
"But Rockney may know."
There were a few noticeable gasps. Josh looked around and saw Anila and a few of her guards looking uneasy.
"Rockney is still buried in his grave,"
Rapatha said.
"Only a few people were brought back after I was wounded. I had no control over who was chosen. I cannot bring him back to ask unless some of the energy leaked out is returned."
"Can't the energy that is returned heal you?" Anila asked.
"Only a little, but, to put it in terms Josh may appreciate, it would be like putting a bandage on a shark bite."
Josh laughed. "Do you know me?" he asked.
"I've watched your exploits since you first came here. You seem interesting. So the only true course of action would be to get your essence from Wes and return it to you?"
Anila said.
"I truly believe so." "Then that is what we shall do. even if it means bringing Rockney back."
Anila didn't sound at all pleased with this plan.
"How do we bring him back, though?"
Josh asked. "I can return your energy to you," Dargo said from Josh's true lips. The cavern grew quiet once again. Josh was impressed with the offer. Dargo was willing to return to the grave in order to help Rapatha.
"I would appreciate that, Dargo."
To Josh, she said,
"I may need your help. I can't direct the energy to a specific person. I'm too weak. I'll need you to act as a host of my energy to give to another."
Josh grew nervous. "Can I do that?"
"I believe you, more than anyone else, can. You are a Gelfin."
"Yes, I am. I take life, not give it."
"Oh, Josh,"
Rapatha said kindly.
"Gelfins aren't just about taking life. They can do with it what they wish."
The possibilities swirled in Josh's mind. Could I bring everyone back to life who died? Rapatha was silent for a moment.
"No, perhaps only someone who had just died, and only if you were the one to take their life. In this situation, you would only be the middleman. You would be putting my energy into the deceased, and in this case, it would only work for a wizard. They are the only ones who can come back to their bodies."
Josh nodded sadly. If he'd known this before, he could have brought back the young man he'd accidentally leeched after being killed by Nauki's tornado. He was suddenly brought back to the present when Dargo turned and looked down at the others. "I don't apologize for what I did. I had my reasons, and if I could do it again, I would. I love Rapatha, and I once helped her when she was in need. I shall do so again. I do this, not to help you, but to help her." Anila nodded.
"Thank you, Dargo."
He turned back to the glowing green light. "Take what you will of me." He raised his arms. Golden light slowly rose from Dargo and disappeared into Rapatha. Josh, from Reese's body, watched in wonder. After a moment, the golden energy vanished and the body collapsed. Victor barely managed to catch it in time. The hexal lowered to the ground, and Josh was given the horrible sight of his dead body. He turned away. "I'll rebury him. You," Victor said quietly. Josh simply nodded, still looking away. He wasn't concerned with seeing his dead body, as he was with the sudden realization that Rapatha was the positive energy mentioned in the Nexus. Josh knew that if he gave all of his energy to the island spirit, he would save Astrid. But what would happen to him? Would he cease to exist? He'd died for the world already, but now that he was back, he felt he'd been given a second chance. He was truly afraid of doing what he knew he had to. With Dargo's poisoning, he hadn't seen that coming and therefore was better able to go along with it. This time, however, was no surprise. It was one thing to die unexpectedly, but having the foresight to do so was completely different. Maybe he didn't have to die, though. Maybe the necklace could help. It would sever the tie between him and Astrid, and it would allow him to become solid. He could live again.
"Rapatha,"
Anila called up.
"Dargo told of a necklace that made you mortal. Do you know where it is?" "Yes, I believe so. Why?" "Josh needs it. He is now a nature demon, and he and Astrid are at war with each other, so to speak. Josh is leeching off of her, and she may die if we don't bind Josh's power immediately." "I understand. The necklace is not far. If you journey through the cave behind me, you should find it."
Josh looked at the mentioned cave on the far side of the cavern. It sounded easy enough.
"I should warn you," Rapatha said next. "There is a race of creatures that treasures the necklace, and they may not give it up easily." What kind of creatures? Anila asked. I know of no race other than the giants that live below ground. They are fairies. I encountered them early in my transformation. They are like lice, and I've never liked them. Fine, Anila said with a sigh. Victor, you dig up Rockney and bring him here. Josh and I will get the necklace. Sounds like a plan, Josh said, nudging Anila lightly. She smiled, but it didn't seem genuine. The sooner I get my husband back, the better, she said in a tone Josh recognized. It was the way she'd first spoken to him, a know-it-all, authoritative sort of speech. It was one of the things Josh liked about her. She sat on the floor, holding the baby close to her. Andor paced back and forth, looking like a crazed animal. He smelled awful, the stench coming from him in hot waves every time he got close. Andor looked down at her and the baby. I used to have a son. Did you know that? Dargonius's plague killed him. I'm sorry to hear that, Shay said quietly. I bet you are. He spit on the floor near her feet. What's his name? Shay looked up, confused. Whose? The little prince you're holding. I know that's Anila's baby. His name is Maximus. Adorable. Ask me what my son's name was. She didn't. Ask me, he yelled, startling her. Maximus started to fuss in her arms. What was your son's name? Joffy. He was only 6 years old. A dead silence filled the dark room. Shay still couldn't believe he'd found her. They had been so careful, walking into Champagne's house and then using the teleporter to get to this house. The guard assigned to protect her and Maximus had to be dead. Where is the queen? She heard Andor ask from far away. I don't know, she replied. Andor suddenly snatched Maximus away from her. Shay jumped to her feet, but he pushed her back down. When she looked up again, she saw the man holding the baby, making silly faces at Maximus. He's so cute. He reminds me of my son. He then pulled a knife from the waistband of his pants and held it to Maximus's throat. Where is the queen? He asked again, with a calmness that frightened Shay nearly as much as the knife.